Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beardy's News Roundup. Welcome to my newsroom. Joining me today is a llama in my newsroom, the dotted llama herself.
Hi, nice to be here. Can I do my newsreader voice? Like,
Of
hi,
course.
Brad. It's great to be here. I can't wait to hear what news stories we have coming up.
My name is Beardy Gaymer, not Brad, but okay, let's get into it.
No, but you need a newsy name. Chad or Brad
Chad.
or
Tom.
Tom.
Over
Go
to-
on, Tom. Tell
Over
us
to you,
a joke.
Tom. This is our very second episode of our news roundup, week 2. So I've been scouring the Tinterweb for all the lovely news stories this week, and I'm going to go through them with my dearest llama here, and she's going to give us some hot takes on everything. So we have got 9 items on today's episode, starting with topic number 1, or article number 1, Agent 88. Hitman 3 has come to consoles and PC this week, so we head over to Metacritic for the scores on the doors. Overall, we got a Metacritic score of 88 out of 100. Just a couple of reviews that we've got here. So on VG247, they scored it 100, which is a pretty good score. Taken individually, Hitman 3 feels like a great value with plenty of variety and lots to do. When taken as a whole, the World of Assassination trilogy is hands down one of the best and most complete feeling trilogies in video game history. That's pretty good, isn't it? And then we'll go to, let's have a little look here. IGN gave it a 90. Rich, rewarding, and highly replayable, Hitman 3 is a superb installment to IO's idiosyncratic but much loved stealth series. And then finally, let's have a little look here. Let's go for a little lower score. Comicbook.com gave it a 70, which is a pretty low score. They said Hitman 3 isn't a great game. Oh, that's a bit harsh, isn't it? That I would call bad in the slightest. No, wait, I've read that wrong. Hitman isn't a game that I would call bad in the slightest, but hasn't done a lot to wow me out of the gate. There we go.
Okay, that's. I mean, it's a long established franchise, isn't it? I mean, I remember playing it on the 360 when it first came out.
I remember playing Hitman 2. I think it was Silent Assassin or something like that. The full title, Hitman 2. On my very old PC back in the day, and I just typed Hotman 2.
Oh, that's a different website you're going to now.
Different kind of thing.
That's next week's newscast.
Oh, wait. No, that's just bringing me the 2008 version.
Yeah, see, I always had trouble with that game. I love the sneaky element. I love, trying to find all the different ways that you can get to accomplish a mission. But I always struggled with the mechanic of the rope around the neck piece.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I would sneak all the way through, get to the baddie, get up behind him, put the neck or the rope over his neck, and then drop it or accidentally punch him, anything other than kill him silently.
Yeah.
So that was really annoying. I loved that game.
It was definitely Silent Assassin. I'm just fact check myself. I remember putting a cheat code in, which was like a nail gun cheat. So every time you shot your gun, it would stick them to the wall wherever the bullet hit. So I used to try and hit them in the hands and stuff, and there'd be these ragdolls just hanging off the wall. I always find that highly amusing. I have played the first of the new trilogy. And I'm not going to say that I loved it, but I'm not going to say that I hated it at the same time. So when they reinvented it and did it again, they released the first one in episodic chapters. So each part of the game came out in different installments, and it all goes back to, if you want to check this out, there's a great video game documentary YouTube channel called NoClip. And the guy that goes and speaks to IO and talks about how they brought Hitman back from the grave because it had failed so badly in its last couple of installments. And because of that, they didn't think it had the same fan base anymore, so they wanted to do something in smaller chunks so that they could put the test the waters, see how people were feeling about it, and then add more levels and all that kind of stuff. But for me, that kind of broke the game up because I really like playing it from beginning to end rather than playing a section at a time. But I do really want to get Hitman 3, to be honest with you, because it comes with a VR mode that allows you to play all of the games in VR, and I have a VR for my PlayStation, so I really kind of want to check that out.
I
I
mean,
think
what
that'd be
kind
pretty
of a
cool.
psychopath wants to murder people in VR? Like, assassinate people?
Me. You know
Don't
me.
drop the string.
I am the NPC griefer person here. Like I love griefing an NPC. So if I can get in there in VR and do some crazy ass assassination missions and make myself feel like a little gay James Bond, then I'm gonna do it. I am gonna do it.
I don't know what it is about NPCs. I just can't grief them. I think, do you ever see that Black Mirror episode where everybody's in the video game and like NPCs are actual people that have been sucked into the game world?
Oh no, I
I
haven't.
don't know. Oh, you need to watch some Black Mirror
Okay.
because it's fucked up shit. It basically explains all of society. Charlie Brooker knows where it's at. But yeah, I think I just feel bad for them. They haven't got a choice in their little circles that they walk and the same 5 lines they say over and over again. It feels rude to kill them.
Oh well, never mind, eh? I'm glad that it's done well. I'm glad that it's hit an 88. I think it's a really good redemption tale for IO and the Hitman franchise. And I'm super excited because they're working on a James Bond game, and I just don't think there's a better pairing. The Hitman creators and James Bond. What a cool game that's going to be.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Daniel Craig James Bond. I didn't like him.
I kind of hope you get to make your own James Bond. That'd be cool.
Ooh, even better. Yeah, you be your own James Bond
You are
with a
James
slap
Bond.
mode.
Yeah.
These can't play James Bond
No.
without slap mode now. That is canon.
Nope, has to happen. Moving on to story number 2. She's a big old bird. This is
Go
in
on, Brad, tell
relation
us what's
to
happening.
the Resident Evil showcase that was held last night. So they had an evening showing off a new trailer, some gameplay, pre-order details, and the release date. And we even got an exclusive demo available in the PlayStation Store. So here's a little rundown of all the main things that were announced. Resident Evil Village is available to pre-order now and will be released on the 7th of May 2021. Standard and digital editions are available to pre-order on their online stores. So if you want to head over to PlayStation or Xbox or Steam or wherever you want to go, you can do that. And they have physical collector's editions, which include a poster, art book, steelbook case, and a figure of Chris Redfield, as well as all the content included in the digital deluxe. Speaking of the demo, it's been exclusively put onto the PlayStation Store last night, which is labeled Maiden. I had played it. It's a little bit like the RE7 demo mixed with the VR Kitchen demo. I don't know if you played either of those. Resident Evil 7 changed the formula a little bit, so they went to first person instead of third person over the shoulder. And in the original Resident Evil 7 demo, you played what was in the game, one of the tape episodes. So as you play through the game, you pick up these tapes and it will show you like past events or whatever. And it's this group of paranormal investigators going into this house and trying to solve the mystery of the Baker family and all this other kind of stuff. So it's like a short demo, a little bit of action and fighting and stuff in there, but like nothing major. Really good showcase of the game. In the kitchen demo, which was a VR exclusive demo, you were basically shown the E3 presentation before it was announced that it was a Resident Evil game, which sees you strapped into a chair, and things and creepy bits are going on around you. And then finally, a woman, I forgot her name now, I think it's Emily, jumps out and kind of scares you and pushes you off your chair and kills you, and then it's over. So in this demo, sees you wake up in the dungeon of the castle that's going to be in Resident Evil Village, and it's your job to escape. There's no enemies or anything like that. A little bit of puzzle solving, find like the bolt cutters, get a lockpick, find your way out of the dungeon, and make your way up, escape the house. But towards the end, the two types of villain, I would imagine, were shown off. So first of all was this one that kind of appears through like these bugs or moths or bats or something. So she kind of like it just appears and takes a chunk out of your neck. We think it's going to be vampires. You manage to escape to go through the back door, and then the big old bird turns up. So I don't know if you've seen any of the promotional stuff, but she's like this giant grey-skinned, kind of sexy woman with this big, like, wedding day hat on and a white dress.
Right.
So she storms through the door, grabs you by the throat, and then kind of does a on Wolverine, his X, where she like the fingernails and the claws come out of her fingernails. Yeah. She does that and then like stabs you, and then the demo's over. Pretty cool. The game looks beautiful. RE Engine continues to delight. It's such a pretty engine. So yeah, go check it out if you've got one of those. Game's going to center around Ethan Winters again, who's the protagonist from Resident Evil 7. His daughter's been snatched, so he's gone to try and find them. And the general consensus from everything that's come out so far is there's going to be like witches and werewolves and vampires in this game, and moved away from the mold people of RE7 and your traditional zombies and parasites and everything else. The giant lady has featured quite a lot. Now, we did get a name for her, but I forgot what the name is, and I think it'll take me too long to look for it. But she's...
Lady.
Yeah, giant
Tell
lady.
us in the comments if you know the name.
Yeah, if you know a name, just let me drop us down a note. But I think she's going to play like a Jack Baker style villain for this game. So in Resident Evil 7... Resident Evil 7 was very much... Because you've not played, have you? The 7th one. Very much like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So you're in this house...
Oh, no, I did play that one.
You played this one, yeah. And so you've got the guy that breaks through the wall with the chainsaw, and he's constantly kind of chasing you down. And as you progress through the story, it changes to like a different person from within the family. I think she's going to be that Jack Baker character that kind of keeps coming back. I have a theory that she's a tyrant. So a tyrant is one of the genetic... bioweapons developed by Umbrella, famous for Mr. X in the Resident Evil 2 and the remake, so the big hulking guy with the fedora, and also Nemesis was a type of tyrant, and then in the other games there have been different versions. The reason I think it's a tyrant is she's got grey skin, and that's normally a trait for a tyrant. The second of all is this nail thing where she like shoots these nails out of her fingers. One of the mutations of a tyrant is that he grows like this claw arm, and the claws kind of come out of the fingers. So I kind of feel like maybe she's an advanced version of a tyrant to some extent, which is pretty cool. Another thing that they announced...
Is she the first female tyrant that we would have seen?
I think she would be.
Then it would make sense that she's more advanced. I mean, we advance faster than boys. That's science fact.
Yeah, science fact. Another thing they announced was REverse, which looks like a Battle Royale 6 thing where you're basically playing as a hero or villain from the franchise. You could be Leon Kennedy or Claire Redfield or a tyrant or a zombie or whatever it is, and you're battling out to see whoever wins. And finally, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil this year, there's a crossover event with The Division 2, which sees you be able to pick up some classic outfits and weapon skins for the game, and that starts on the 2nd of February, which is all pretty good stuff.
Oh, and Division 2's on Game Pass at the minute, so you can pick that up.
Yep, very good.
See, when I first read this article, I thought, because I'm a little bit out of the loop on Resident Evil over the years, I thought that Resident Evil Village was going to be like Animal Crossing, but with zombies. And I was actually legit looking forward to that. I would play the shit out of that.
Could you imagine?
I can!
Like, you could build your own little island and protect it from the zombies and the tyrants and everything else, and go around recruiting. Instead of residents, you're recruiting other classic Resident Evil heroes and villains to kind of defend your territory. I think we need to make this game.
I would play that.
Sif, if you're in the chat, you play around a little bit with video game development and stuff, don't you? I think you need to put this to your next board meeting for ideas of things to move forward. Are you gonna get Village when it comes out?
I mean, maybe. Is it a PlayStation exclusive?
No, it's coming across all consoles. So originally it was announced for next gen, so PS5 and the Xbox Series. But they announced last night that it's also going to come to last gen, so PS4, Xbox One, and One S as well. So so yeah, I'll probably get it. I'll probably play it. I probably won't be able to finish it, just like was it Resident Evil Biohazard? Yeah.
get all sweaty and clammy, and they keep screaming and chasing me, and I got nowhere to go, and there's not enough light, and it's just stressy. It stresses me out.
I cannot wait. I love Resident Evil, and I really think they did a good job with 7, so I'm really excited to see what they do with 8. I just hope that I was never a fan of 4, so when they moved away from the zombies and started doing like parasites and more zombies where, well, not even zombies, but they had more thought behind them, as in they could think and they could pick up weapons and fight you with pitchforks and shoot guns and like all that kind of stuff, for me just felt a little bit just out there.
Yeah.
But if they're tying it back into like werewolves and witches and vampires, I think I could forgive it a little bit more rather than just being.
Yeah, because that's totally realistic, so it makes more
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, it makes more sense. I mean, for a vampire to be able to like attack you, that makes sense to me. But for somebody to have like a parasite, no, it's not how
But
it
if
works.
a vampire were to pick up a gun, that's not realistic.
Well,
There are
we'll
rules.
see. We'll see how many rules they break. See.
What if a
Speaking,
werewolf had a weapon?
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Right? That's overpowered.
Yeah, there's no need for it. Although I do think that there's a giant werewolf creature with a sledgehammer in this game, so who knows? Who knows?
For all the demolition work that he does in his day job. Yeah.
Well, he's there in the village. He's got to keep up. Maybe he's like the village handyman, and he's helping repair things. Maybe laying down some new roads, and then here you come,
Harvesting
Ethan.
turnips.
Exactly, and you come, Ethan Winter, trying to steal your baby back, and he's like, "Hell no, I've got shit to do. Get out of my way."
I could see that. I want to play from the werewolf's perspective now.
Maybe they'll do a DLC where you play it from the other side.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I'm in.
Let's do it. Speaking of breaking rules, moving on to article number 3. You owe us some money. EU owes some money. 6 companies have been fined a combined 7.8 million euros for geo-blocking practices. The companies include Bandai Namco, Capcom, Focus Home Entertainment, Koch Media, ZeniMax, and Valve. And they were all found guilty of
ZeniMax.
breach. Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh no! ZeniMax has done something else wrong. They were all found guilty of breaching EU antitrust policies between 2010 and 2015. The European Union states that these companies have restricted cross-border sales of certain PC video games on the basis of the geographical locations of users within the European Economic Area, or the EEA, and entered into a so-called geo-blocking practices. Basically, this means that the activation keys that they were selling or putting out on distributors were locked to the country that it was bought in, which goes against the EU's policy.
We need free movement of games in the EU,
exactly.
Motherfuckers.
So EU says, you know what? It doesn't matter where you buy it, you should be able to play it in any country, and they did this to themselves. Each individual company's fee has varied based on how much that they cooperated with the EU's Commission, with Valve being hit hardest because they just wouldn't play ball with them, to the tune of 1.6 million euros.
To do is be nice, Valve. Jesus. Just be like, oh man, sorry, I didn't realize, and then get on, like, carry on.
Yep.
Just apologize.
Just do the right thing. But I think the rest of the companies had their fees reduced by like 10 to 15% because they play ball. What do you think, Lama?
I mean, the way the EU works is fairly clear, and free movement of stuff, goods, people, knowledge, except if you're British, all of a sudden now we've got to stay on our own little island. But everything else is, supposed to be free and able to move across the borders without any hindrance like that. And so I think they were blocking like the Eastern European economies, weren't they? So like Poland, Lithuania, those sorts of things. And it's poor sportsmanship is what that is.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be blocking stuff like that. And it's not like they didn't know. I'm sure they knew. They have people whose whole job it is to get paid to know this stuff. And they decided to do it anyway.
Pretty much on every single video game, when you get to the titles, there's the whole legal team that's listed there, like, who deal with all of this stuff. They've got huge companies, huge investment and stuff in these countries selling these games. And I could understand if it was a situation where the EU had only just started last year and they weren't too sure on the rules, and they made a bit of a mistake and got it wrong. But the European Union's been around for a very, very long time.
A while now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't really think it's an excuse to maybe not know that they were supposed to be playing by their rule book. So I think it's more for them. I'm glad they got sued. They have to learn their lesson and move on and not do it again.
Yeah, gamers want to play. Don't make it hard for us to play. Let us play.
Exactly. Shall we move on to story number 4?
I will allow it.
Senua has bagged herself a right nice new pad. Ninja
Okay.
Theory, who is best known for the Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice game, has shared details on its new project named Project Mara. It's tagged as a psychological horror game, and it will take place entirely in one apartment, which looks fucking amazing. The photorealism,
It's like playing a movie.
yeah, that they're putting into this is ridiculous, and it's because of all these wonderful technical feats that they've been able to impart into this game that they can bring these fidelities together. Tamimi Antinodius. Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, you nailed that
right.
one.
Yeah. Co-founder and chief creative director at Ninja Theory has shared a 4-minute video detailing the project and explaining the team's vision for the game. While he was talking about the game, he says, a funny thing happens when you get that close to a material. When you get as close as a human eye can possibly see, things that seem flat afar become 3D. You start to see little details. You let see the edges, the edgeware. You see lint and you see dirt. You see that kind of stuff in 3D geometry. A few of the story details were given out in the video, including that the game revolves around a young woman played by Mental Terror, which has been based on real life accounts and research. There's been no release window given for the game, but I would imagine that it's probably not going to be for a few years, and it will definitely be coming to Xbox and Game Pass because the studio is owned by Microsoft. Are you familiar with Ninja Theory? Have you played Hellblade or anything like that?
I've not played Hellblade. And it's one of those games that it's been on my list to try, and I've just never really gotten around to it because I'm kind of a shit gamer and I get stuck in ruts with certain games that I'm just obsessed with for a while. But when I watched the demo video that they showed of the game, and it was in-engine footage, which is, it's always important to look out that you're actually watching in-engine footage, not just artist interpretation. It was like watching a movie. When we were talking about BioShock and how we couldn't tell the difference between the beginning cutscene and with the gameplay.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell the difference in quality between the I think it was like a 4K advert that was on right before it started.
Yeah.
And then this came on, and there was no difference in the actual, like, what you were looking at. It looked like a room that you were just looking at, not like a video game room. So I'm impressed, number one, and I'm super excited to see what they're going to do with it, because any sort of game that gets you into your own head, I quite like that, and especially if it's going to be drawing attention to any any sort of mental health challenges, that sort of thing. That's always quite intriguing to dig into, because so many of us have different mental health challenges or mental health difficulties, at one time or another, or chronically. So digging into that, I think, is something that a lot of people can relate to, which makes it more scary.
Yep.
More of a thriller. So I'm excited. I'm intrigued. I want to play that one.
I'm super excited because of Ninja Theory's work on Hellblade. It's a very short game. It's on Game Pass. Please download it and play it. It is one of my best games of all time. Like, top 10 must-play games. The way that they developed that game, I think we spoke about it a little bit before in the past, but it's about her psychosis and how she perceives the world and everything else. And the way that they researched that game, they didn't just kind of like look, Google, what is psychosis? What are the main traits or whatever? They spoke to people that suffer with these mental health conditions, got their first-hand accounts, really put some research into it, and they created a whole new way to record audio for this game. Again, there's an amazing no-clip documentary. I'm going to plug that again. Go and check these guys out because they do amazing work. And basically, they built a microphone with ears, so that the audio, as they were capturing it, so through the game she has these voices talking to her, telling that she's not good enough, she's going to die, she's going to fail, all these other things. And the guys that were we're doing this, we're circling this ear microphone and saying all these things and getting in close and shouting and moving away and everything else. And because of how they developed the ear pieces on the microphone, it 100% simulated how you would hear it in your own head, as if it's your own voice, your
Ooh,
internal voice talking.
yeah.
So when you play this game, that you have to play with headphones, you get all this 3D audio and different voices coming in and out and whispers, and like it does make you kind of almost go, "Oh crap, what was that behind me?" Because it's so clever how they've done it. And I just think if there's ever a company that's going to make a great video game, a great horror story, it's going to be Ninja Theory, because of the amount of detail they put into their games so far
Mm.
that they've made. And where it says, they're basing this on real life accounts and research, I 100% believe that. They're going to go right deep into the weeds and get the root of this psychological horror out there. I also think it's a very interesting game and subject to talk on, because the game takes around this one apartment. And what have we been doing for the last 12 months? Stuck in our houses, not really being able
It'll
to
be
go
nice to
out.
have somebody else's apartment for a
Yeah.
fucking change.
So I think that's a really interesting kind of thing to take from real life, of like our own experiences of being
Mm.
trapped indoors and playing this game. We're going to be able to relate to that and be like, well, I know what it's like not to be able to get out of my house. Like, and I think that will end up putting a very interesting spin on the game when it finally comes out.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about that one. I just, anything where you can see the level of dedication
Mhm.
from the devs and everybody involved, that is always going to be a
Yeah.
good play.
And,
Always.
and I think some of this, the engine and stuff that you're using is the Unreal 5 engine, I believe, because I'm
Mm.
pretty sure that Senua's Saga is being developed on the Unreal 5 engine. For anybody that doesn't know, Unreal does their engines for games, for people to build their games and everything else. But the difference between older engines and 5 is that they can use movie-style assets. So things that they would normally use in the CGI of film productions can be then imported into video games, and they've made the whole rendering procedure like a lot easier. They've got volumetric lighting and stuff already built into it, so you can get this ray tracing effect and everything else with very minimal effort on the developer side of things. Whereas in the past, where you wanted to do that, it was very computationally heavy, so you'd have to assign a lot of extra assets to be able to do that. And I think seeing that stuff coming through is amazing, because I just think it's, by the time we get maybe the next 3 years into this generation, we're really going to start seeing the benefits of the new PlayStation 5, the Xbox
Mm.
Series, and these new graphics cards and stuff that we've all been pandering and getting into our PCs. So a very, very exciting time for video games.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait. And by then it will have been on sale, so I can have one.
Exactly, yeah. Speaking of things that are maybe exciting, this one's probably not. Well, it kind of is exciting, but 2077, we were thinking more like 2022. That's right,
Oh,
Cyberpunk is back in the news.
did it ever leave the news?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be stuck here. It's like that, when you have like a sesame seed bun or a poppy seed bun or something, and it's like that little seed that gets stuck in your tooth and you never can quite
Mm.
like get it out. That's going to be the Cyberpunk news cycle for quite a while. But we're
Oh,
going to
I feel
go,
bad for him.
yeah, we're going to go over to Bloomberg with legendary investigative journalist Jason Schreier, who's gone and done it again and dug up a load of information on the, well, quite problematic development cycle of Cyberpunk. So definitely a must read. Go over to the article. All the things that we've spoken about today, the original articles, will be posted into the YouTube description, so make sure you go and check them out, because all these guys have done all the hard work. All I'm doing is sit here reading it up and giving you a recap, regurgitating it like some homosexual news bird feeding its young.
That's made me wildly uncomfortable.
But some little points that I brought out from the article itself. He spoke to about 20 developers that worked on the game, past employees and present ones. A lot of them have got their identities hidden because obviously they're working there still, or they don't want to be kind of like tarnished for their own careers and everything else, which is completely understandable. The project was marred by unchecked ambition, poor planning, and technical shortcomings, and this kind of air of hubris that seems to be like coming from the higher management of like, we've got this problem and we're not too sure how to figure this out, and then being just like, well, you guys made The Witcher 3, so like, you can do it, it's fine, don't worry about it. which is a really dangerous kind of attitude to have, because we saw the same thing with BioWare and Anthem. Like, there's this big thing with Andromeda and Anthem that this like BioWare magic would pull everything together at the end, and it just didn't, and they released two games that were in a bit of a messy state. Same thing has happened with a couple of other flops over the last few years. I think the same thing with Bethesda with 76. Or we always release things, it's always a bit buggy, it's always a bit this, like blah blah blah, and then they went and released a fucking dumpster fire, and it really came to bite them in the ass. A lot of the developers apparently thought that the 2020 release date was a joke internally, because they didn't think it was going to be ready until 2022, which is very interesting if they thought it was actually 2 years out of being finished.
I mean, there's stretch goal, and then there's just being crazy.
Yeah.
But do you think some of that is because of the fans? Because, I mean, we were rabid online, you know, like, release the game, release the game, release the game, we want it, we want it. And they kept saying, it's, you know, we're not ready yet, we're not ready yet.
I don't think, I understand the narrative of like, we the fans put a lot of pressure on any game developer when it comes to a beloved publisher or a beloved franchise to kind of get that next fix of whatever it is that they're doing. You have the same thing with any fandom across any kind of media, whether it's books or whether it's video games or TV shows or movies or anything like that. I might be wrong, and this is probably my opinion, and just like bum holes, everybody's got one, but I just don't think realistically anybody can sit there and say, well, it's their fault because they pressured me into doing this, because they've got a whole team of people working on this thing, like, and they came out so many times saying, it'll be ready when it's ready. When we're ready to release this, we'll do it. And we all applauded them for this, and, you know, there was a couple of pushbacks here and there. The general overarching song that was coming out of the fandom was like, well done, this is exactly what people need to be doing. We've just had Andromeda, we've just had Anthem, we've just had Avengers, we've just had 76, all these games releasing unfinished, not happy with it, everything else. Take your time, give it to us when it's ready. So when they said it's coming out December 2020, we were like, great, it must be ready to go. And it wasn't. So I kind of, that's, you know, on their own shoulders that need to own up to that. Apparently the game originally started as a third person kind of take, but it was mandated to be first person once a studio head, Adam Badowski, requested it and took over the development of the game in 2016. Now this is one of the biggest points that I think is really interesting, is the E3 demo that was shown at E3 2018 apparently was fake. Like, and all built on fake footage, and like, instead of it being a actual gameplay reveal, apparently it was more like a tech and like a visionary piece, a little bit like what happened with Killzone 2, I think it was, back in the day. I don't know if you ever saw this, but it was a big E3 presentation with Sony. They put this thing out and it was like blowing everybody's minds. Killzone 2 was getting developed for the PlayStation 3. And everyone was like, oh my god, I can't believe how great these graphics are going to look on a PlayStation 3 nano processor, blah, blah, blah. And after the fact, the gorilla who was working on the game kind of went, about that video that you showed off was like an internal like stretch goal of what we wanted the game to look like, not actually indicative of anything in production or what it will probably actually come out looking like. But apparently the whole video, for the people that Jason spoke to, just spoke of CD Projekt's focus more being on impressing the outside world than actually dealing with the issues that the team were facing within the development. Which, if this is true, I just think every day that passes, this development team, or, you know, these leaders that worked at CD Projekt Red and made these managerial decisions, are just digging a bigger and bigger hole. And it seems like maybe this pedestal we put them on of being this great video game developer and something everybody should look up to, maybe we've just inflated their heads too much and it just it's come back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. It does feel like there's a trend almost of studios coming up with amazing games and then just flopping afterwards. And I don't know why. I don't know if anybody knows why. Because they've clearly got the capability. It's just, it's not just capability, I guess, is where you get to with the
Yeah.
second part of it. But yeah, it's a shame because there's, some of those games that came out that first sort of whet our appetite for what these studios could do, 10, 15 years on are still bloody amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet then Andromeda came out, or Fallout 76, or all of the, Anthem, all of these things that we were excited about, that we thought were really going to hit that mark again, and then they just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's disappointing. And I don't need any more disappointment in this
No.
goddamn lockdown.
It
Y'all
always
stop disappointing me.
It always makes me think of, the Batman film where the line, you either live long enough to die a hero. Oh, no, sorry, you either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is the mantra of all game studios for all time. Like, they either fail and go away, like, and become legends, or they stay around and then end up becoming everything that we hate in other companies,
Mm.
which is
Yeah,
sad.
it's almost like in the first one they're striving to like make their name, make their mark, prove that they can do something, and then once they have, they sort of lose that magic spark, and it becomes about, metrics and volumes and return on investment, and maybe it becomes just a bit too corporate and then less about that creative spark that actually gave it the magic in the first place.
Yeah, and for something like CD Projekt Red as well, like, they have shareholders and stuff, but they produce the game themselves. And correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments, send me as an email or whatever.
Yeah, I won't
But
correct you because I won't know.
they deal with their own publishing as well, I think. So
Okay.
there's no, it's not like a BioWare situation where they were bought out by EA, and EA is the one that's putting pressure on them to make these games or hit these release schedules or anything else. They're essentially reporting to me, myself, and I. Yes, they have investors that they have to explain things to and everything else because they're the one that's giving them the money, but it's their own timetable, it's their own thing. They can do what they want with it. They can take as long or as short or everything else on it. So I just don't see where the pressure was for them to do this. I just think that they had a vision, had an idea, must have bit off more than they can chew, and just thought that they could rely on the fact that, hey, we're BioWare, no, we're BioWare, hey, we're CD Projekt Red, we did The Witcher, if we can do that, then we can do anything. And it's just come back to bite them in the ass. And even the latest statement on last week's news, the studio head came out and said, like, we're sorry, we did all this, blah, 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 blah. In the next 10 days, there will be a patch. We've still not seen it. So, and I'm pretty sure that the 10 days is almost up. So I think that's going to be probably the next news story. You heard it first. Breaking news prediction.
News. It's a shame because there's so much talent and there's so much, there's so much on offer there. To see it not work is always disappointing.
And I feel so bad for the people working on this game, not the studio heads or anything like that. The guy that's putting together the textures for the multitude of dildos that you're finding around in the game. Like, they've worked so hard on this game and put everything in there, and I've probably done everything in their power to go, this isn't ready, it's not right, we can't do this, but they still faced huge amount of crunch to try and get this game out the door on this December 10th release window, which CD Projekt had come out so many times saying we're not going to crunch the team. They did it anyway, and they're now left with this like cloud over their heads of, we release this game, it's not in a very good state in a mass way for a lot of gamers on console when it comes to PS4 and Xbox. There's problems on PC, but ultimately the PC versions are the ones that are the getting all the good reviews and good scores and everything else, and relatively run issue free. And they're now faced with a situation where they've got to now try and fix something in an even smaller time frame than they would have done if they were just listened to in the first place and said, it's not ready, let's take more time to work on it. I think
it's a reliance on patches, like knowing that they can patch stuff after release date. Because back in the day, once you bought the game, that was it.
Yeah.
There wasn't another patch that would fix something. If it was broken, you had a broken game. Welcome to your life. Like, that was just it.
Sad times, but I'm pretty sure we'll be back again next week with another Cyberpunk 2077 story. So let's move on to
Standing agenda
article.
item.
Yep. We're just going to leave it here constantly as number 5. Moving on to number 6. Dead relative 265 underscore has entered the chat.
I am not comfortable with this story at all. I
So,
thought it was a joke when I read this in the show notes.
So did I.
Jesus fuck. Bring us up to speed, Beardy. Go ahead, Brad. Tell us what's happening.
Okay, Lucy. Microsoft has filed a really bizarre patent to create chat box that will imitate dead people. It describes that you would be able to create a person's chat box by using images, voice data, social media posts, and electronic messages, as well as other personal information. As the creator, you would then be able to train that chatbot as a digital replacement for a friend, relative, acquaintance, historical figure, celebrity, fictional character, or random entity. And you could also then use 2D and 3D modeling to recreate that person based on the images and video data that you present to them. So in essence, Microsoft is giving people a way to recreate dead people to have conversations with them, which I think is a really fucking weird thing to do when mourning and loss is a very difficult thing for a lot of people to go through as it is, without then adding this element of, well, you never really have to let go, because if you do all this coding and send these messages off to this editor, you can just create a virtual avatar of your great dead auntie and that you can text and she'll chat with you.
Yeah, and I mean, I said I was wildly uncomfortable earlier with this. I am even more so. I think there's all sorts of implications, and it's been something that's been bubbling along in the voiceover artist world for a while. I do audiobooks in my spare time. I don't do video game voiceover. That would be fucking amazing, but no, I don't do that.
If anyone's watching from a video game producer, she is available for voiceovers in your video games, and please reach out to her on social.
I do really good lesbian sex scenes. So it's this idea that you can take someone's likeness, you can take someone's voice, you can make it say or do whatever you want on a screen, and that is kind of terrifying. I mean, from a work point of view, that means that, voiceover artists like the amazing Jennifer Hale, who's Commander Shepard, Ye Femshep, all of these amazing voiceover artists could get gazumped by an AI that is free, basically, and will work all hours and say whatever. So that part of it is terrifying. But also it feels dirty. It feels slightly evil, I guess, to be able to make somebody say something that you want them to say. Like they're obviously not acting of their own free will because they're not there. Yeah. So you could have Ruth Bader Ginsburg reading Mein Kampf, like
fuck it out.
Right? Like this is fucking uncomfortable. I don't like it. And I'm hoping that they're doing the patent so that they can bury it and never use it. Well, is that what's going to happen? Probably
you would
not.
hope. I'm not entirely sure. I think that let's look at the bright side of things. So you could use
brighten me up because I'm in a dark place.
Let's do this thing. So you could use this to create, I don't know, a virtual avatar of Abraham Lincoln reading out the Constitution or something in like an educational purpose, or something of historical value, to recreate it and give it a new lease of life, a new way to entertain people or educate and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really cool. But you've got to remember that as a race, as the human race, we tend to do terrible things with technology, and tend to do terrible things with weird-ass things like this. And we spoke a little bit about it before we went live. One of my big concerns is stalkers. So stalkers collect a lot of information about their victims and who they're really obsessed with and everything else. This is giving them an opportunity to create an avatar of their
Their
fantasy and
victim.
their victim and create this like two-way conversation. And it's dangerous in a lot of ways because some stalkers, depending on how like deep their issue goes, have this innate and built-in conversation there anyway, and make up these stories of them being in relationships with these people and everything else. Something like this could reaffirm that thought and belief, because they would have these messages or conversations from this person affirming that they're in love with them or they need them or all that kind of stuff. I think that's very dangerous because
It's just creepy, dirty. I don't like it.
yeah, I think.
And then what if they meet you in real life and they're like, "You told me last night." Like, bitch, I didn't
Exactly.
last night.
Exactly. I just think that although it's very cool, and it's amazing what we can do with technology and AI and everything else these days, the implication or application of this patent needs to be very specific in what is allowed and isn't allowed. And I think when it comes to things like historical figures and recreations of that kind of stuff, perfectly fine by me. But when it comes to things like the general public being able to access this and recreate their dead relatives or fantasies or whatever it is, I just don't think that's right. And I think, especially when it comes to, on an emotional level, for dead relatives or friends or anything like that, I don't think it's fair on anybody to be put in a situation where they'll perpetually put themselves in torment of reliving this thing of this person still being there when they're not actually there. I don't know if you remember, this has come to my head and I should have researched it before, but there was a very weird story in one of the newspaper articles in the UK a few years ago where a woman was receiving text messages from her dead grandma.
Saw that one.
Yeah. And it turns out that basically the phone number that was used for her grandma, she passed away, she let the phone company know that it had been, she died and everything else. Phone companies generally, under those situations, will take a telephone number and blacklist it so it's never used again. In this situation, they forgot to do that and it went back into the system and somebody had got that telephone number. And she used to text her grandma every day to say, like, I miss you, blah, blah, blah. And then she started getting replies. like
in character replies.
Yeah, and it was just so weird and fucked up. Like, you see something like that, but this is going to be something that's automated. I don't like it. I think it's weird.
It's on the same level. It's on the same level as deep fake video technology. Like, great, yeah, technically interesting, cool that you could do that, but terrible application. We've already seen it flooding, the porn market, like just with terrible things of people that did not consent and were not involved. And then, politics, Jesus, let's not go there. But it's that same level of disinformation that I just makes me creepy crawly.
Yep.
I don't like it.
Don't like him. All right, well, let's stop that one there and move on to story number 7. Wait, Aloy, we can't patch her up right now. Guerrilla Games has put out a blog post stating that patches for the recent released PC port of the game will be slowing down as they begin ramping up development of the new installment and tackle completing the game while working from home. The post reads, as our team continues to develop our upcoming Horizon Forbidden West title, we are shifting to less frequent updates for Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition for PC after this patch. Please note that we will always continue to monitor our community spaces as always. As we know, Horizon's Forbidden West is the next entry into the Horizon series, which has been slated for a 2021 release date, but we're a little bit concerned that it's not going to get out in this year and it may slip a little bit just because, I mean, if nobody actually realised by now, I don't know what planet you're on, but we are in the middle of a pandemic and there is a lot of difficulties when it comes to developing games and working from home in that situation. You've not played Horizon, have you?
I've not. Yet another game I haven't played. I'm like the worst co-host of the video game show.
Kick her off. Kick her off.
It's on Horizon Zero Dawn. No, that one is PlayStation though, isn't it?
So it's a PlayStation Studios exclusive. It is now on PC. So last year, towards the end of 2019 and in 2020, they released a couple of PlayStation exclusive titles onto PC. I think part of that was more of a marketing ploy to try and maybe bring people across to the PlayStation 5 once these new installments and stuff come in. And on the other side of this, I think it's probably not financially hurtful for them to put them out into a larger audience and start receiving a little bit of extra moolah on a game that's maybe 2 or 3 years old. But Horizon was made by developers Guerrilla Games, which we spoke a little bit about earlier. They did Killzone, that's the thing that they're most famous for, first-person shooter, sci-fi, blah, blah, blah. They went away for a few years and then came back with this open-world RPG, narrative-driven story thing, which is like a complete 180 on what they were used to doing, and just blew everybody away with the story and the writing and stuff. And they've been working on a second installment for quite some time, and they showcased it at the PS5 reveal event. So we've seen Aloy go west to get more answers about what happened and maybe try and track down what happened in the first game and the ending and everything else. I don't want to go into it because it's spoilers and you've not played it and you might play it, so I'm not going to go there. So, but robot dinosaurs.
We talked about the robot dinosaurs.
We talked about the robot dinosaurs, but this next article, next topic on our news roundup is definitely up your street, Llama.
This was my special request.
Oh,
Go on, say it, say it!
Your Valve's got a leak again, and there's Fallout 2 details all over the floor. Longtime Valve insider and YouTube content creator Tyler McVicker, aka Valve News Network, has claimed to have a lot of information and details on a yet-to-be-announced sequel to Obsidian's 2010 release of Fallout New Vegas. Since Microsoft's acquisition of ZeniMax, or more specifically in this case Bethesda, and the fact that the company already owns Obsidian Entertainment, the rumors have been swirling around since these two acquisitions of the possibility of a second installment into the fan-favorite game. In a recent YouTube video that he uploaded onto his channel, the leaker says he has a lot of information alluding to New Vegas 2. In the video, he makes some references and uses subtitles for the Frontier when talking about the potential new game, which I believe is where it is set, and also the title of a new mod that's just come out for it. So
yes, so there. I mean, the game, the first one, obviously, as anybody that plays knows, it's set in the Mojave Desert. You're choosing sides between the New California Republic, the NCR, or Caesar's Legion, who are terrible people and eat people for breakfast. So you're in the wasteland and running away from cazadors mostly. So to see, and I mean, the story we've talked about this so many times. Obsidian, just chef's kiss when it comes to dialogue and story. And we've seen it in Outer Worlds, we've seen it in New Vegas. And to know that there's a second one possibly in the offing. I mean, even I think one of the leaks was basically that they were looking at it in the back half of this decade. So it's not coming next year. But I'm quite happy to be excited about this for the next 6 years. That's fine. It's not like I'm going anywhere else.
Yep. I think it's super
I'm
exciting.
Super excited.
Because like you said, the guy who's done the leaks and everything else did put a tweet out afterwards saying that he expects to see Fallout New Vegas 2 in the latter half of this decade. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Obsidian Entertainment, when they made the Outer Worlds, did so with the original creators of Fallout. But when they did New Vegas, I don't think that the original creators of Fallout was part of Obsidian yet. I might be wrong.
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
I think my understanding is that they were basically a fresh whole set of eyes on it.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be exactly what it needed. And even now, argument, but it generally comes out on top in any what's the best Fallout game conversation. New Vegas is always up there.
Yeah. I think it'd be very interesting if what I just said is correct, to get the original Fallout creators with some of the guys that worked on maybe the original New Vegas, if they're still in Obsidian, working with Bethesda and putting a new entry into the series. Because I think New Vegas Obsidian did this great thing. I'm going to go on a tangent here. So
tangent away.
They tend to take on, from my history and knowledge of it, they take on other people's franchises and then make games out of it and end up doing a better job than those other people's franchises worked on. So you saw it with,
take them in different directions.
Yeah, so you saw it with my first Obsidian game for me was the Knights of the Republic 2, the Sith Lords. So they took over from BioWare, who did the first one, and then did this great kind of subvert expectations, kind of plot twist, Grey Jedi, blah, 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 take on the Star Wars universe, and really ask the question of, you've got these people with these powers, and should this be something that's out there in the universe? Should these people have these powers and abilities and everything else? And told a really fantastic story. Loads of different levels to it and different nuances and all that kind of stuff. My next experience with them was New Vegas. Again, I played Fallout 3. I didn't play the original 2 games, but looking at Fallout 3 against New Vegas, you really see that there's like a difference in how it's been handled. And ultimately, I think Vegas is a better game than 3.
Yeah.
A unreleased game that they were working on was a Alien RPG. I don't know if you heard about this, but they were working on Alien, Sigourney Weaver franchise Alien, working on an RPG
I just need to note that Sigourney Weaver, for all intents and purposes, I have claimed her as my wife. But the Ellen Ripley version, I want to leave the other versions out there for the other lesbians, but Ellen Ripley is my wife. Back the fuck off.
Okay.
Thank you. Carry
on. So they were working on a game in that franchise. For all intents and purposes, it looked pretty fucking good, to be honest with you. But it got cancelled because Fox is a bit weird when it comes to Alien games and didn't really want to. I think it was around the time that Colonial Marines was being developed. And they had 2 options to either go with Obsidian's game or go with Gearbox's game, and they went with Gearbox, and we all know how that turned out. So in hindsight, I think they should have just gone with Obsidian. But again, another franchise that wasn't their own that they kind of took on and seemed to do amazing things with. And I just think that this is a perfect opportunity. You've got these 2 big powerhouses all under the same umbrella. It would be great to see them do a new release, because I do feel like, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of friction between Bethesda and Obsidian after New Vegas came out because of the fact that it did really well. And in the development cycle, Bethesda put a lot of pressure on Obsidian, was like, okay, so you've only got 18 months to make this game. And they did it in 18 months and made a better job than what they'd done the last 4 years on Fallout 3. So I always felt that there was maybe a bit of an issue there between the 2.
Yeah, and you can I can kind of give them that, because, if you've been working on it, and this will I'll probably get some shouting about this, but like when you get a really good movie or a really good book, and that artist or that screenwriter, they've worked years on it. They've poured their heart and soul into it, and they put it out there. And then, a famous fandom writer does their own story based in the universe, and it gets more love and attention than what you did. I can see why you'd get a little upset with it. But at the same time, what's happening is you've created a world that other people want to live in, and they want to carry it on and keep it going and keep improving it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad place to be in. If you've created something that good, you should feel good about it, because anything else anybody does is always going to be based in your world. And the Fallout lore is just deep and, so interesting. You're never going to run out of content if you can do in the
100% agree. I'm excited. I hope they do it, but we'll have to wait and see. Rounding up this episode, we've got our 9th and final story. I need $1. $1 is what I need. Hi guys, sorry, this is Present Beardy in the edit of this episode of the News Roundup. I just wanted to say, before we get into this story, the narrative's kind of changed a little bit. Xbox has put out a new statement saying that there is going to be no price changes, and that they're actually making access to the online service for free-to-play games free. So no price increase, no need for the story, but we're going to run it anyway. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of happy gamers out there, including myself. But we'll get back to the video. Sorry for the interruption. Microsoft is set to increase the cost of its Xbox Live Gold service by $1 a month in the coming weeks. This will increase the yearly subscription to $120 because they recently did away with the 12-month subscription option, which means you can only get 6 months, which is $60. Many had speculated, however, that when they did away with the 12-month option, that we would be seeing Xbox Live Gold just disappear completely and be replaced with like the all-in-one package of the Game Pass Ultimate Edition with Live and PC and Xbox and everything else. But that's not happened. However, I kind of feel like, and it's alluded to in this article from Kotaku, that this could be a move for them to try and push people into the Game Pass ecosystem, because you've got a monthly subscription for Xbox Live Gold, which is now going to be $11 a month. We've also got Game Pass Ultimate, which is Game Pass for PC, Game Pass for console, and Xbox Live Gold for $15 a month. So it's a $4 difference. So maybe they're just trying to get it into gamers' head, like, well, if I'm already paying $11 for this, like I might as well just pay four more and get access to this library of over 100 games and everything else, and all these first-party studios and all that kind of stuff. What do you think, Llama?
I mean, I feel like it's been the same price for a long time. I could be wrong. I don't pay that much attention to it. I just like to hope that my wife doesn't notice when it cut, because I do the annual thing. So every March, she's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And then we panic. I'm like, "Oh no, it's fine. It's my Xbox." So I get the need that, you know, it needs to match inflation. It needs to make sure that it's supporting, you know, the ecosystem that it's meant to be, because otherwise, if you're not charging enough, people aren't paying enough, the service can't continue, and it grinds to a halt because it's shit. So I get that. I want it to be good. I feel like that's a big increase. But you know, I am on Xbox Game Pass, so what I need to do is pull my finger out and just do the combined option with it, and save me some buckaroonies there. Um, yeah, I get it. I don't like it, especially now. Like, there's so much economic hardship out there. Games are supposed to be the place where you can go and relax and forget about all that and just blow shit up for a while till you feel better. So I don't like that part of it, but I get it.
Yeah, I mean, in the article itself, it does say Microsoft put a statement out and they said, you know, unfortunately, they have to make these moves sometimes. The price of gold hasn't really changed that much since it launched on, I think it was the original Xbox.
Yeah.
So I think it went from $7 a month to $10 a month, and now from $10 a month to $11 a month. So it hasn't really changed much over the last X amount of years. I don't really know off the top of my head. But I'm just really surprised in general. I mean, not too much from, say, Sony or Nintendo, but definitely from Microsoft, where they're one of the biggest, like, computer software and hardware distributors in the entire world. They've got server farms everywhere, like just pumping out information and networking things and everything else. On PC, you don't have to pay for this kind of service. So if you want to play online, you buy your game and you connect to the server and you play a game, and there's no cost to it. And I just don't understand why Xbox maybe hasn't been a little bit smarter and gone, hey, we're going to stop this online charge thing. We're just going to have Game Pass, because we don't need to charge for this. We've got all these servers and all these farms and everything else doing their job anyway, and we can just route it through there and it's not an issue. I think that would have put a lot more pressure on the likes of Sony and Nintendo to kind of go, shit, what are we going to do to combat this? Because I feel like Xbox's moves over the last 7 years has been moving away from this idea of them being, or with the Xbox brand in general, being consoles and like their machine and their hardware, and moving towards this like Netflix-esque subscription model of it being about Game Pass and their first party library and all the stuff that they're doing with software and stuff, and it being like, it doesn't matter where you are, what you're playing on, you can still access our games. We've got, you know, the xCloud service that they've launched. You can get on your phones if you're not an iPhone person until they sort that out. Tablets, PC, eventually when it comes on that, and even on the Xbox machines themselves, they're going to bring it to that. Phil Spencer's come out and said that he thinks within the next year there will be an Xbox app on TVs. So you'll be able to just play Game Pass games or xCloud from your TV. No need for a dongle or anything like that. You'll just need a controller. So I think with them moving to that kind of model, I'm just a little bit surprised that they're keeping this subscription.
This is the move they made, yeah.
And the move that they've made is to take an option away from games, because again, one of their biggest thing is, you know, we don't want to restrict people. We want to give you all the options and everything for you to make your own decision. but we're going to take away this option for you to buy it yearly, and then we're going to increase the price so that the yearly subscription now costs you twice as much as it would have done because you can only buy a 6-month subscription now. I just think it's a bit money grabby.
It seems like an odd move, especially as they've been moving towards that games service Netflix style thing that you said. Yeah, when you lay it out like that, it does seem an odd move.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something missing that we don't know about, but like you said, I don't have to pay that fee to play on my computer.
Yeah. And I'm a PlayStation guy. I pay for PlayStation Plus. Yeah, that's what it's called. And I very rarely.
Thought you were wondering if you paid for
what would I pay for? Did I rob that? Did I just hack it out? No. But I very rarely play online, so I don't play Call of Duty or anything like that. Very rare that I play a multiplayer game. In fact, I only really started getting into a bit more multiplayer stuff when the pandemic hit, and we started doing Spiral Break stuff, and a few of my friends. We spoke about the Division 2. I really like the Division 2. One of my friends is getting that. We're going to start going and doing missions and stuff on there. So like I've only recently in my gaming history jumped onto online play, but I've always paid for it. Just because if I ever want to do those things, like at least I've got it.
Yeah.
And you get the free games and all that kind of stuff. So I'm used to that kind of payment model or whatever, but I just feel like when Microsoft's making so many bold moves to move themselves away from the traditional console company with Game Pass and everything else, I think removing this wall of entry would have been a very good move. And I hypothesize that potentially maybe this is a move to try and recruit a little bit more money because Game Pass is so cheap. And maybe the money that they're increasing it is to shift over to balance the book somewhere else. As the old saying goes, you rob Peter to pay Paul.
Bastards.
Yeah, so I don't know. I get it. Things happen.
There's clearly a reason behind it. This is Microsoft. This isn't a move that they've just made lightly. There'll be all sorts of stuff behind it. So yeah, you may be right. It may be about consolidating people the Xbox Game Pass, which is extremely good value for money. So I can see the reasoning behind that. Yeah.
So moral of the story is don't pay for things separately. Just get Game Pass Ultimate. It's nice and cheap, and you get everything in one big old bundle. Well, Llama.
That's it.
That brings us to the end of our news stories.
I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, a little bit different.
I like it because I don't have to do any research for these shows. I just sit here and listen to you read to me, and then I talk shit.
Yeah, it's good.
It's my favorite.
We're going to do a little bit of out this week. So every week we'll give you a little list of games that are coming out in the next 7 days. Excuse me, my tea's coming back to haunt me. I am going to butcher some names right now, so if you are a fan of any of these titles and I screw up the pronunciation of said game, I apologize in advance now.
Tell him loudly in all the comments. Email us at Gaymers Assemble, GAYMERS, at gmail.com and tell us that he's butchered it, because we like to see that.
Exactly. Atelier Riser 2. Lost Legends and the Secret Fairy is coming out on the 26th of January on PS4, PS5, PC, and Switch. Cyber Shadow is coming also...
No. That's interesting. What was that game again? The Lost Fairy?
The Lost Legend and the Secret Fairy.
The Lost Legend and the Secret Fairy. See, that's interesting because that is actually my secret drag name.
That's The Lost Legends and the Secret Fairy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
very
me.
Good name. Very
Have you
catchy.
seen me perform?
I haven't. I'm going to be looking for you now. I'm going to go check Instagram and stuff later to see if I can find you. See what categories you've been working down the runway. Second game out this week is Cyber Shadow. That's coming out on the 26th of January as well on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. Now, this next game I'm very excited about. It's The Medium, which is coming out on the 28th of January to Xbox Series and One and PC. So this is a game where it's very much giving me Silent Hill vibes. And I'm pretty sure that the guy that worked on the music for Silent Hill is also working on this game. From what
Oh.
I can tell, I've kind of been on a bit of a media blackout about this game because I didn't really want to know too much. I want to go in blind and kind of play it. But you play a medium, and she has the ability to swap between the worlds of the living and the other side. And the whole gameplay is basically you trying to get through this situation, whatever it is. And say you go to an area and the walls crumble down in front of you, you can then in real time swap to the other side, and then maybe that crumbled down wall is no longer there, so you can actually pass through. So it's like that kind of thing. Pretty excited for that. It's coming out on Thursday, so I will be downloading it thanks to Game Pass.
I've seen the trailers for that. It looks really good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably jump on stream next week with it, either on my own channel or this one. Next game that's out is the Yakuza Remastered Collection. That's coming to Xbox One and PC. Next game is God's Will Fall. That's coming out on the 29th of January on Xbox One, PC, PS4 and Switch. And then the last game rounding up this week is RE0, Starting Life in Another World, The Prophecy of the Throne, which is probably the longest title that I've ever heard in a video game.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's what he said. And that's coming out on January the 29th on PS4, PC, and Switch.
Excellent. Well, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out this week. The medium one looks really cool. I have seen that one on the trailers and might have to play that one, but it'll be one that I can only play like during the day because it's good. I can tell already it's going to scare me.
Spooky.
The switching between worlds on Silent Hill, because it was the siren that signaled that you were switching between worlds. Yeah. Even now I hear that siren and I get goosebumps and I start getting freaked out because I fucking hated that part. It scared me so bad.
I'm
intrigued to see this.
I'm forever conditioned that is, if I get up in the morning and it's foggy outside, I have to like think to myself, shit, am I in Silent Hill? What happened? check the news. Is it supposed to be foggy today? Was that siren?
Is there static on my radio?
Why is my radio doing this? Yeah, I fucking love Silent Hill, and if this is any kind of spiritual successor, I'll be very happy with that. And like I said, I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Excellent. Well, I want to see you stream it, so make sure you do it on the Gaymers Assemble.
I will do. Time for a little outro and a little bit of housekeeping. So, as you already know if you're here, we are Gaymers Assemble, and we started out as a little podcast, and we're still doing the little podcast each and every Sunday. You can find us on twitch.tv/Gaymers Assemble as we record our next episode of the podcast, talking live. So if you want to catch all the shenanigans, make sure you catch us on a Sunday for that. This Sunday, our topic is going to be the most anticipated game coming out in 2021. So there'll be a group of us getting together, talking about those games and seeing what all of our picks are. As always, you can find us on all the social medias. Well, I say all, but it's only Twitter and Instagram, really. At Gaymers Assemble, which is GAYMERS, Assemble as the usual spelling because we are queer and gay AF. You can always write into us if there's any news stories that you've caught this week that you think we should do in the next episode, or topics or suggestions or anything else, or just want to have a little chat with us. Send us an email at gamersassemble@gmail.com. Again, GAYMERS, Assemble. And make sure that you hit the follow, subscribe, notification bells on Twitch, YouTube, all that other good stuff. And the podcast is the only one that you'll find on Spotify and other podcast services. So check us all out. Get us in your eyes and ears. It doesn't sting and it doesn't hurt. You'll just enjoy yourself. But until next time, Llama, say goodbye to these lovely people.
Goodbye, lovely people.
I am Brad, signing off this episode of News at 10. And we will see you on Sunday or next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.